Hey, do you prefer to find the joy in life, or do you just want some help with that? If so, you're in the right place. So come on in and join the Joy Bunny clan. This is the My Slice of Life podcast. Welcome to this week's episode of the My Slice of Life podcast with me, Sharon, your very own Highland host. And this is the podcast where I am, as I say on the tagline, coming from my slice of life to help you get the joy back into yours, and I am attempting to do that by covering all sorts of topics. If you're like me, you're interested in more than just one thing, yeah? So that's what I cover here. Pretty much everything. Yeah, I know it's a lot, but I just cover stuff I find interesting. So with that in mind, this season is called Let's Get Productive, and this week we are going to become time management ninjas. And trust me, I probably need this more than you, because my time management this week has been a nightmare, to put it mildly. So this week we are going to kick this time management thing in the holy molies, friends, and I'm going to go through a whole menu of techniques for you today, so you can feel free to pick and choose whichever ones you think will work for you. I've got a couple in mind already that I'm thinking I'm going to need to try and implement today. Actually, I think the phrase time management can sound a bit heavy though, can't it? I mean, especially if we feel like we're the only person not managing it. And why do some people seem to manage their time effortlessly, while others struggle to find enough hours in a day? And I bet you've said that before. I just don't have enough time, or if I only had more time in my day. I know I have for sure, and if you have, well, this is the episode for you, and by the end, you're going to have a whole set of practical tools to be a full-on time management master and regain control over your days. That's the aim anyway, so let's give it a bash. And we're going to start with the big question. Why does time management matter so much anyway? Because we only get 24 hours in a day, and we all have the same 24 hours, but it's how we use them that makes all the difference. I mean, whether you're balancing a demanding career, personal life, or a project that you're really passionate about, time management is like a golden key to productivity, reducing your stress and achieving those goals. And think about this, when it comes to time, once it's gone, it's gone. There's no turning the clock back so you get the extra 2 hours you suddenly feel you need. And we've all had those magic days when we felt incredibly productive. There was no stopping us. And then there were others when we seemed to accomplish absolutely nothing. So what was the difference? It often comes down to how we managed our time, not just what we did. So let's have a quick think about some of those time stealers first, which make us less productive. First of all, there's procrastination. You know, that old putting things off for a whole host of reasons, and possibly a topic we'll be revisiting a bit later because it's a huge issue. But would you consider multitasking a problem? Many people think they're being efficient by multitasking, and I am one of them, I will confess, but there is actually some research out there which shows it actually reduces productivity, and I need to try and remember this, because our brains just aren't wired to really focus on multiple complex tasks at one time, and then constantly switching between tasks. That's just such a waste of time, and I am prone to doing that. I will start one thing and then I get very easily distracted, and then I think, I need to do that. I haven't finished that. I need to do a bit. And then I go on and I come back to the original thing, which still isn't finished. And I've just done a bit of this and a bit of that, and there's nothing actually completed. So multitasking is not the best idea. There's also a lack of prioritisation. If you don't work out what's the most important task, you can spend too much time on the lower level jobs and just not enough on what truly matters. And this is a common issue for people who feel busy but don't accomplish their top tasks. You're always on the go, you're always busy, but at the end of the day you feel like you've achieved nothing because you haven't prioritised. Overcommitting can be a problem too. Taking on too many tasks or saying yes to too many requests can stretch you and your time way too thin. And the last one I'm going to mention for now is social media. Whether it's YouTube, especially the shorts, and yes, I am guilty of that one, I have noticed more recently actually, which is surprising to me, that I'm just scrolling through the shorts. I enjoy it. I like it. And it's not on a phone. I'm on a laptop, sitting at a desk, scrolling through shorts. For others, it's Instagram, which I do not do. I did write a blog post about this recently, but I had a quick look. That's an insta-no for me. Could be Twitter, you name it, XYZ, whatever it is this week, whatever your social media platform is, it's all too easy to think you've only been on it for 10 minutes. But you've just lost half an hour or more, and there's no getting that back. I've done that this week. That's what annoyed me. I've done it this week. I was like, oh, for goodness sake, you're doing a podcast episode about this kind of thing. Stop it. So what do we do? Well, the first piece of kit I want to give you for your time management toolbox is the Pomodoro technique. This involves working for 25 minutes and then taking a 5-minute break. And after 4 Pomodoro sessions, you take a longer break. Now, I hadn't heard of this before, this Pomodoro technique, but this method apparently not only improves focus but helps combat procrastination. So if you want to give it a try, first of all, choose a task that you really want to focus on and set a timer for 25 minutes. You'll work on that task with your full concentration until the timer goes or your wee buzzer beeps or whatever it is. Then you take just a 5-minute break to relax and recharge, get up, stretch, walk about, whatever you need to do. Then you repeat this process 4 times and then you take a longer break of 15 to 30 minutes. Now they say it's effective because you avoid burnout by breaking your tasks into manageable chunks. You're not trying to do it all in one go. And I talked about that in a previous episode, breaking things down into easier chunks. It also enhances focus, especially if you struggle with procrastination. I'm putting my hand up because you've got 25 minutes, so you just start. And it's said that the regular breaks, they ensure sustained concentration and productivity over longer periods. Now, I haven't tried this method. Like I said, I've only just found out about it. I like the idea of it. I just worry that I would get too focused on the timer, checking it every few minutes to see how much longer I've got left. But I haven't given it a go yet, so maybe it would work for me. I don't know. It does sound similar to how I did my revision for my exams many, many, many years ago. But we were told then to do 45 minutes, then take a break for 15. So similar, sort of. Okay, next up is the 80-20 rule. Have you heard of this one? You focus on the 20% of tasks that will deliver 80% of the results. So every day ask yourself, what are the most important things I need to accomplish today? Really prioritise them and find the one that will give you the biggest outcome, the biggest bang for your buck. It's also known as the Pareto principle. So to give you an idea of the steps, try this. First of all, identify the 20% of tasks, like I said, that will give you the 80% of the results that you're looking for. And really focus on those high impact tasks before you move on to the less important ones. But continually review and adjust your priorities to make sure you're always focusing on the most valuable work. And this method helps you to do that thing that we're always being encouraged to do. Work smarter, not harder. And you do that by concentrating on the tasks that matter most. It's a great way to avoid feeling overwhelmed by a long to-do list because you're really prioritising and choosing what gets done. So do the one job that gives you the biggest results. The next technique I've been hearing people talk about a lot more recently in podcasts and YouTube videos, and that is time blocking. And this involves scheduling specific blocks of time for focused work on specific tasks. You treat these time blocks like important meetings and you stick to them. So you would start by planning your day, assigning specific blocks of time to different tasks, and you schedule blocks for everything you want to get done, like important work, meetings, personal time, breaks. You treat each block as an appointment. You can't break it, you stick to it as you would for any other meeting. Using this time blocking technique That provides good structure to your day. It reduces this thing called decision fatigue. Have you heard of that? Where you're constantly having to make all these decisions and it gets to the point you're like, I don't care. So it cuts all that out. You know exactly what you're doing. You don't need to think, what do I need to do next? Because it's all written down there for you to follow. And it prevents multitasking. I should be taking notes here, and allows you to focus on one task at a time. Really focus. You'll also get a better sense of how much time a task actually takes, and that can help you with your future planning when you do it next time. And I do quite like the sound of this one. I think it would help me to stop running around like a maniac trying to do everything at once. Yeah, actually, the more I think about it, the more I'm thinking I should try this. So maybe if I give myself an hour to start cleaning the upstairs. See, I just did it again. To start cleaning the upstairs. No, an hour to clean upstairs. I think that already gives a sign of how easily distracted I am, because I'm just thinking, well, if I go upstairs then I have to do this and maybe I'll find stuff for the wash. No. Okay, I am going to try that. Totally block my time. Nothing can break it. Nothing can disturb it. Okay, so I'm talking myself into it here. Next up then is the Eisenhower Matrix. I think you're going to like this one if you don't know it already. It's a great tool for sorting your tasks by importance and urgency and helps you avoid wasting time. If you don't know it, I'm going to go through it slowly because it can be a little confusing the first time you hear it, but it will make sense. So first of all, divide your tasks into 4 groups based on their urgency and importance. Now in group 1, that's going to be labelled urgent and important. Okay, you do these tasks immediately. Group 2 is going to be labelled important but not urgent, and you schedule these tasks for later on. Group 3 is going to be labelled urgent but not important. So delegate these tasks if you can. And the 4th group is not urgent and not important. So can you eliminate these tasks to free up your time? Do they need to be done? Do they need to be done by you, more importantly? And here's why it's effective. This Eisenhower Matrix helps you prioritise tasks that truly matter, and it ensures that urgent but less important tasks don't steal your time, which often leads to bigger achievements. This prioritisation and grouping, it lets you see exactly what needs to be done first and what you can leave out or get someone else to do. Maybe you've ran out of a few things in the house, milk, bread, whatever. That's quite urgent. You're going to need those things. Not that important if you've got some, phone calls to make about a problem in the house that you need to get sorted out. So can you send somebody else out to go and get those things while you do the more important one, making the calls? That kind of thing. So now we come to batching, and this is when you group similar tasks together, and it can help to reduce the mental effort that's often needed to switch between one type of task to another. So to use this method, you're going to start by grouping your tasks. So maybe it's things like responding to your emails, making phone calls, filing paperwork or dealing with it. And then you set aside specific time slots to focus on these batches instead of switching between different types of tasks throughout the day. And you complete each batch in one go before moving on to the next one. When you use the task batching technique, productivity can be increased because you're minimising distractions that come from constantly switching from one thing to another. And apparently that gets called task switching costs, which again is another one of these phrases I've never heard of. There's lots of jargon with all this time management stuff, and I've tried to keep that to a minimum here. And I think this task batching sounds similar to time blocking, but here, instead of just saying, right, I've got an hour and I'll do this in that hour, when you're task batching, you finish that task, you finish that group before you move on to the next one. So it might take you 45 minutes, it might take you over the hour, but you get that whole block finished and then you move on to the next one. So it is a little different. I know a lot of them sound quite similar, but there are subtle differences between them. A very quick one for you now, which I really like, and this is the 2-minute rule, and it's just as it sounds. If a task takes 2 minutes or less, do it immediately. You won't get small tasks piling up and cluttering your to-do list, and it's a great way to handle minor requests or small jobs really quickly and efficiently And it frees you up. Your time's free then to deal with the larger things. So 2 minutes or less, just do it. Got a couple of dishes in the sink? 2 minutes or less, just get them washed. A couple of things to put in the washing machine? Just do it. And then you don't have to think about it later on. I do also want to remind you quickly of the SMART system for setting goals. That is to make your goals specific, so you're clear about what you want to do, measurable, so you can measure your progress, achievable, make sure your goal is realistic, relevant, it should be relevant to you and your life, and time-bound. Give yourself a deadline. And I think that's one we're all quite aware of. At least, we'll have heard about it at some point. But I just wanted to mention it here because it's relevant and just to give you a little reminder of that. Make your goals SMART. Use the SMART system. But one you might not be so aware of is a technique called Eat That Frog. And I know it sounds gross, but it's actually pretty straightforward. First, you identify your biggest, most important task for the day, the one that will have the greatest positive impact if completed. Then you tackle this first thing in the morning before you move on to other tasks. And that's pretty much it. As once the hardest or the most important task is out of the way, the rest of the day will feel easier by comparison. The rest of the day will just be a breeze. Anything else you have to do after this? Much easier. And this method is based on the idea that if you eat the frog, do the toughest task first, you'll be more motivated then for the rest of the day. It helps you overcome procrastination and it builds momentum for the rest of your workday. It's pretty straightforward and easy, but it just has a really weird and slightly gross name. Okay, have you heard of the 1-3-5 rule? This is when for each day you plan to accomplish the following. 1 big task, the most important task of the day. 3 medium tasks. Okay, these are tasks that still matter, but they're less crucial. And 5 small tasks. Minor tasks that are easy to complete, but still need attention. Sounds like my house is falling down. What is going on? The 1-3-5 rule, it gives you a realistic workload for the day without the overwhelm. And it prioritises key tasks, but it also makes sure that the small, easy ones don't get neglected either. I like the sound of this one as well. I like that, the 1-3-5 rule. I think I would probably get everything done if I went down that road. Now, the last technique I have for you to help you become a time management ninja is time tracking and auditing, and it's much simpler than it sounds. That's why I've left it to the end, because this is actually, I think, one of the easiest things we can do. Very simply, have a daily review. Just spend 5 to 10 minutes at the end of each day, going over what you've accomplished and planning for the next day. This will help you stay on top of your priorities and adjust your plans if you need to. The time audits come in useful if you're unsure where your time is going. So, as it sounds, just track how you spend your time over the course of a few days or a week if you need to, and then analyse it. Just every day, make a note of the hours and what you did that time, and if it's too vague, break it down into half-hour time slots. You might be surprised to see how much time is spent on distractions or what you would class as more of a low-value task, things that aren't really that important to you, but then you'll see you've spent tons of time doing them. You can do your tracking manually or, use an app if that's more your thing. I'm sure there's plenty available out there. I am not an app person. If you've listened to other episodes of the podcast, you'll know I'm pretty basic. I do have a phone. I got an upgrade. Somebody was very, very kind and gave me an upgraded phone, but I don't use the apps. I like the camera, I use the camera, and I use it as a phone. That's pretty much it. But make sure whatever you do, if you're doing it manually or use an app, that you review the results to really see where your time is being spent and see if it aligns with what you're wanting. Because then it's just a case of making little adjustments to your schedule, cut out those low-value activities, and then you'll be able to focus more on the high-impact, important jobs. Now that's quite a lot of techniques there for you, so I'll just run through the names again. There's the Pomodoro technique, the 80-20 rule, time blocking, the Eisenhower matrix, batching, the 2-minute rule, one of my favourites, the SMART system for your goal setting, eat the frog, just do that big job, the 1-3-5 rule, and your time tracking and auditing. Now there's bound to be something in there for you to try, and you'll probably need to try a couple before you find a system that really works for you. But remember, becoming a time management ninja, it isn't about perfection. We're not looking for perfection here. This is more about taking control of your day and focusing on what matters, being intentional with your time. It's to make sure you're making the best use of your time and doing the things that are most important to you. None of what I'm talking about in this whole let's get productive season, none of it is about making us do more. This is about helping us manage our time, do the things that are important and do them well without wearing ourselves out. The whole goal for this entire season is that we find out how we can be productive without doing more. And that just leaves me to say thank you for spending some of your precious time with me this week and listening to the episode. I do really appreciate that. And I hope you found this a helpful episode for you as well. Feel free, as always, to like, comment, share, use the links in the show notes. And I'd love for you to come back next week for the next episode to help us all get productive, because I have a cracker of an episode for you next week. But until then, you take care of your wee self.